Well, hello, everybody. Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today I got our friend Alex Fiato's back in the studio again. And Alex came with lots and lots of good stuff to talk about. Today we want to talk about the Bible Code. Now, I know a lot of you may think this is all bullshit, but it may be. But I don't think so. I think there's something that's in there that needs to be looked at. Alex has spent a lot of time over the years looking into this. He even invested in the software that goes with this to try to test some things. Here we have an old CD of unlocking the Bible codes, and there's just a lot of stuff out there now you can find on YouTube and other places like that where you can find out about these doctors who looked into all this and tried to debunk it. They tried a lot of ways to try to kill this story, didn't they? But it kept coming back with more and more irrefutable things to talk about. I mean, they got Apollo 11, July the 20th, 1969.
Yeah.
I mean, down to the T. They got Shakespeare talking about Hamlet and Macbeth.
All clustered together.
All together, all in sequence. It wasn't like it was here or there. It was like
like a jigsaw puzzle that's telling you a story.
So we'll get into it. We'll tell you how the Bible Code works, what it does do and what it has shown, and what it doesn't show, but who's to know? And then who may have authored it and how it got to be that way. There's some different thoughts on that, whether it's just God alone or whether there was some aliens involved in this with a higher technology and resources, maybe.
Yeah. We don't know who wrote the scripture.
The Old Testament.
The Old Testament. And so there's any number of possibilities because God's creation could be taken into service, and our Lord saying, I want you to write this stuff down here. And they did. And even the writers may not have known exactly.
God would probably be saying the way he does a lot of things, hey, just do it. You'll find out later why it matters.
That's right. Yeah.
I need this done now.
There you go.
It's a lot of times when you're an executive and you're giving people and your underlings, they say, well, what are we doing this for? Well, don't worry about that. You'll find out this afternoon. Just get it going right now.
That's right.
Because the trucks are coming with the rest of the story this afternoon.
That's right, right.
And if I had you thinking about that all day, you wouldn't get the first part of it
Absolutely
done.
right. So he does it with many workers in the field. They'll tell you, I've been given this mission, but I'm not sure I'm going with it. And that's perhaps the way our Lord wants it to be so that it reflects his achievement through you. And so the code, what they're saying on the Bible Code, Larry, you did some research on it. There was a guy by the name of Michael Drosnin.
Drosnin, who wrote this book. And he was trying to be a healthy skeptic.
Yeah, he was for the Washington Post. He was a reporter for it.
Yeah, he was out to.
He was very skeptical.
He was going to describe this all as being total BS.
Right.
Just more bullshit under the wagon. He was really not
prepared
for what he found out. And the things and how he found out. So he tried all sorts of ways to beat it, to make it be like a practical joke. But the more he tried, the more he got knocked down and set back on his spurs a little bit there. Yep. I think God may have been messing with him as a healthy skeptic. And I understand that because the people who know my story, I came to Rome City thinking a lot of this stuff was BS. Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about Our Lady of America when I bought the place. It wasn't until after I committed and bought the place that things started revealing themselves more and more. And at first I was trying to say, well, this is BS, it can't be right, because I'm trying to...
Yeah, it's outside of your experience.
Right, this doesn't happen. And I get a lot of the same stuff even from priests and good Catholic people and good churchy people these days. They all say I'm crazy and full of shit and all like that. I had a situation
it's actually a compliment when they...
with one of the priests came up and said, you're crazy. And I told him, I said, you can go pound sand. I called him weak and a coward.
Right. Yeah, sure.
I basically chased him out of the store.
Right.
So, but he started it. So
well,
they
they don't feel the hurt and the pain, and they think that they're part of an elite squad of people. And a friend of mine called them, many of them, he said, Alex, are naive and they're misfits. He didn't mean that derogatory. He means that they're not fit for the job that they're taking on.
Correct. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of that we've had with a lot of our priests, and a lot of people want to defend the new group of priests coming out as being this super conservative group. Well, that has a lot to be seen yet. We have to see if they're putting
we'll see what happens.
pardons, but
Yeah.
we've got a lot of problems, I think, with our 40-something, 50-something, 60-something priests out there that their formators way back when were screwballs.
We're in the midst of the apostasy, of falling away from the faith. We're in the midst of the most difficult and trying time in the church. And it's not because I say it or Larry says it. The Blessed Mother.
She's been worried about it for over 100 years. In her messages, she started in Fatima, saying, look, you need to correct yourself. I'm concerned about your worldliness. I'm concerned about your. Basically, she was saying you're kind of taking your eye off the ball here a little bit. You're worried more about you than about.
That's right.
All my children.
Yeah, that's right. If you
want to be a priest, you go to the back of the
line. Absolutely. Her son's trying to accomplish redemption and salvation. This is not a game, and she's trying to tell people you need to put the emphasis somewhere else. And then she gave very simple things that they can do that they refuse to do.
Or even talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what Larry and I are doing here is more complicated than what she has asked them to do. And they won't do it. The Bible code. Sir Isaac Newton knew that there was a code in the Bible.
Now, how did he know that?
Intuition or something. He was a studier of the Bible. He saw little pieces and things, and he was putting them together, and he said, there's something going on underneath.
And his mind was always trying to construct things to see how this works.
Most of his time was spent on trying to unravel the Bible code. Okay. But it wasn't until the advent of the computer that could do these searches. Now, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Eli Rip, he emigrated.
He's the Russian dude, right?
He's a Russian guy, mathematician, that actually developed the code for the Bible. And it's basically the Bible code is like a skip sequence. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And it's made up of...
Now, skip sequence is...
It's when you do a search, you're asking, search for the word Larry Young between 500 and 1500 and skipping. And it'll go through trying to find Larry Young in that skip sequence.
Well, what I was seeing when we were looking at skip sequences is they would start off and they would take a letter, and then they would skip 42 letters.
That's right.
Then take the next letter.
That's right.
By this voiding out these 42 letters in the meantime, if they put letter number 1 and then letter number 43 together, that started to spell out something. The next one. Right. And you do this over a series. If they skip after 42, it didn't matter if they did it with 42, if they did it with 100.
They could do it with
whatever the number.
In the this is very good. It was Unlocking the Bible Codes, came out in 1998. But there's a tutorial that teaches you how to do it, and so this is probably the best software, but it runs on specific Windows.
Oh, they've updated that for sure. So
I've tried to. I can't find it.
Well.
Unless it's out there, but right now I use old technology to do the searches.
It'll be $800 in the software, but it's out there, I'm sure.
I mean, it's really a beautiful piece of software, and it's very rare. What they do is in the Old Testament, they would the way that it is written, it's written from right to left. And as you write the scripture, between words there's no spaces, and between books there's no spaces, so it's continuous. Mm-hmm. And that's why
continual line of letters.
Continual line of letters, right.
All in the old Hebrew, right?
All in Hebrew.
Okay.
And the scribes that used to do this, if they missed one letter as they're doing it, they had to trash the whole thing. That's right. Can you imagine doing this on parchment, or how did they do it on?
Well, they did on
the last letter, right, Larry? And the guy's shaking.
Well, I think they were past the chisel and the hammer, and they weren't doing it on rocks, but they were doing it on papyrus or on animal skins.
Yeah.
But if they missed one word, or they got a context wrong and didn't copy it exactly.
That's right.
The whole thing couldn't have been, it wasn't burned, they buried it.
Is that right?
Not a ritual.
Okay.
And so how many of these frustrated templates are out there with the...
Yeah.
You wonder why these monks were bald.
They didn't have any white out.
They pulled their hair
I know, pulling their hair out. But the idea was that God is mathematically precise. Everything that has been created, everything that is happening, is not random like an explosion and we don't know where it's going. God is very specific, but they have not done this with the New Scripture.
The New Testament.
The New Testament, written from right to left in Hebrew. So it would be interesting if they did that, what we would find in that narrative. Now, what we see in terms of the Bible code, you'll hold this up, Larry, would you?
Yeah, I don't think they could see that on the...
Oh,
I don't think they could see that too well on the video, but...
What does that say?
Well, this has got... well, if anyone's done one of those like word search puzzles where you can go diagonally, you can go backwards, forwards, up, down, and all like that, that's how the Bible code goes. And they're trying to show with this line of text here, which is all Hebrew letters, that they found by doing their search, certain words popped up that would be touching each other or in sequence.
Okay, so they're touching each other or in sequence
connected
and clustered together.
Right. And so they're showing the investigators that there are connections here by way of this code, or at least what they've decided on. But one of the things that I found interesting was that they were trying to say, well, a lot of this can be made up because there are no vowels in the Hebrew language. It's all consonants. That's why it always sounds like, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, you have to beg the question. If it could be made up, you still have to beg the question: how can it be so specific?
And how can it be so right?
Right. I mean, if I do a search on Larry Young, which we're in the process of doing, so his name would come up, Larry Young, and maybe it would be in you'd find in the scriptural passage that he comes up, say perhaps in Deuteronomy. And then we look at the passage of Deuteronomy, and it says something in that biblical passage. And it says something similar to the kind of work that he's been doing. So now all of a sudden we're interested. Then we say Rome City, Indiana, and that comes up crossing in between Larry and Young. Mm-hmm. And then we said, well, geez, I know Larry, he had to go to trial, in some sort of federal trial, or some Indianapolis judge or whatever, and that comes up to his name.
Might have the judge's name.
Might have the judge. Then yes, I know the judge. He comes up, all of a sudden the judge's name is next to him. And you go, oh my God, how do you do this, But so we're getting like a crossword puzzle of perhaps Larry or somebody else. And they're telling us the story about him in a very basic way. And now you're looking at left and right.
Like bullet points of the story.
Yeah.
It seems like, that not everything, but these are the elaborate bullet points along the way. It seems that these are the things to key in on, but it all, taken as a collective, it all can point to only one particular set of facts.
Here's the kicker. Dr. Ely Rip, that developed this, said if we had the machinery to go right and left and diagonal, but also go
long,
deep,
three-dimensional,
all right? Dr. Rip said we would probably, if we typed in Larry Young, 1963 Christmas, a video would come up of you in 1963 opening up, I don't know, Robert the Robot or something. In other words, this is the book of life. Our Lord said, "This is the book of life." You know what I mean? It's not just the book of life. Right now, we're just scratching the surface. Then he said, what if we go to a fourth dimension, which I don't even know what that would look like, or the fifth dimension, and we would begin to see things that we never, ever thought were possible. So, Larry brought up, could it be the aliens that did it? Sure, our Lord could draft anybody to do it,
Well, if there are aliens, God created the aliens.
Yeah, maybe that's how they participate in it, sure.
They may be part of his team. Who knows?
No, absolutely, Larry. They may be part of his team.
Right.
Because there are extraterrestrials that ain't part of his team.
Oh, I believe that.
Do you believe it?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a fascinating, in other words, God is, why do we say this? God is so intricate and magnificent, and we've seen it in so many ways in some of the miracles that we've talked about and experienced and so on. God did what he said he was going to do. It's Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Son of Mary. That's why I know, and old Larry is, as we look at people, we look at what they do, we look at their intent, and we look at their motivation, not to judge them, but to use good judgment and listening to what they're saying, and is it detrimental to perhaps our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth. So we're here not to rain on the parade, but the truth must be told.
Well, there are canaries in the coal mine that have to, signal to the rest of the crew, hey, danger, take heed, take warning. And I've said all along, with the certain situations with problems with their church leadership, the priests and the bishops and things like that, this isn't me or other people. Our Lady was concerned about it.
Absolutely.
And she's continually been concerned about this because they're not addressing it.
Right. Yeah.
And we have the softness going on that, everyone says, oh, Jesus was such a pacifist and all like that. Well,
no, he wasn't.
Jesus got pretty abrupt outside a temple one time.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
He got a little PO'd about some things going on. And I don't see anywhere, maybe I just missed it, I don't think I've ever had a reading where Jesus said he was a fan of the Pharisees.
No, he wasn't.
Why not? They were leading the Jewish church.
He took him to task, but part of the time he didn't take him to task in the mystical city. His mother said that if he corrected them, they would dig a deeper hole in the abyss, so he would not say anything to them. They were that bad. If he said something to them, they would go even deeper.
They would have dug even deeper.
Some of them he would say it to them because he knew there was some odds that they would wake up.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't a pacifist. He was playing for. That was the tragedy of our Lord in his "take this cup away from me" was the loss of souls. And he looked at even the worst, the ones that beat him on the cross. He said he extended even to them salvation.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny that people say that Jesus is such a pacifist and he wouldn't do anything. When the adulterous woman was being stoned, notice the adulterous man wasn't around. So
no, he wasn't.
No,
right.
it was kind of a
whatever happened to them? The adulterous.
Yeah, why do we talk about the dude? Why are we only getting the half the story? Well, all these people ready to start tossing rocks at this lady, and Jesus is apparently like scratching out in the dirt and stuff like that. He was pretty bold about doing that because they could have, if they were ready to start chucking stones and stuff like that, they may have tossed him on there as being some sort of a witch or something like this, or an evil presence. They were capable of doing a lot of things. And that was pretty bold and pretty aggressive out of Jesus. He didn't have to say anything, but by him writing it all down, everyone could read it.
Mm-hmm.
And that could have been even worse than him just calling one of these guys out on a sideline shot. But he did it. Everyone could read what he was writing down. It wasn't probably just the one individuals. So say if you were reading something was being written about me and all of a sudden you're giving me side eye and I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Then I'm wondering why you're reacting and everyone around you is like, well, Larry did what?
Yeah. Well, and our Lord did know. Unless he suspended that power, he knew everything. He knew the Bible code backwards and forth. He knew every individual. He knew many of them, their destiny. He knew that they could change it, and he would work towards that. So everything that he was doing was to accommodate salvation. And there was one thing that said that when our Lord was conceived in the womb of his mother, that as far as God the Father was concerned, the sacrifice was complete. In other words, the human race was saved just based on him becoming man. Now, of course, the Trinity said, no, we're going to take this to the cross. We're going to take this so far beyond in terms of what we want in terms of salvation for the human race, that it will go far beyond than anybody's ever seen. Of course, the welcoming committee was, to brutalize him, to reject him, to crucify him, and his death. So what does the Bible code do? It says God is. God knows everything. It is the book of life.
And you're in it.
And we're in it right now.
Right. And we're a part of that.
Right.
It's like I knew you before.
I knew you before you were born.
Right.
So it's hard to wrap your mind around it because we get distracted about this world. All of us do. And we get entrenched in the physical and we forget the spiritual. And when you forget the spiritual, especially the spiritual fathers, the priests and the bishops and so on, so when they become lukewarm, they're useless. They're useless. Just like a father or a mother that rejects the children and doesn't care for them. Well, what value, how does our Lord have to deal with that? But the Bible code is, again, saying God is, and God is able to do things far beyond we could even recognize. Now, they challenged the Bible code, and they brought it to the Federal Bureau and the mathematicians and universities, and they brought it to the Central Intelligence Agency, and they all concur there is indeed a code within the Bible that no other book has. And they know this, and they even search this. You can bet that these intelligence communities, good or bad, either the evil ones or the good ones, are searching for. A lot of them think they're going to beat the big guy. You know what I mean? We'll find out what's going on, and we'll circumvent it, or whatever they do. You know, maybe it's just, not being human or loving.
I'll show you your God's a hoax and all like that.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I think it was funny in doing some research. I think it was this Drosnin guy who wrote this book. Somebody was kind of getting in his face and blasting him about saying there's a bunch of hokum and hooey and whatnot. And I think his comeback was, he says, well, if you can find a determination about someone's assassination in Moby Dick, he says, well, then I'll
believe that this is possible.
But this is only happening in the Bible.
It's only happens.
They tried all other great works.
They can come up with a few things, but it doesn't make sense. It's not clustered. It's not within the context. This is in the context of Holy Scripture. So not only are you getting a cluster of the individual or people or events, you're also getting scriptural narratives. Genesis, and so you look at the person, then you look at Genesis, and Genesis, you think, oh my God, they were talking about this person.
Well, they're kind of applying the knowledge,
right,
and categorizing us into these areas. Is kind of how it's been coming out. I thought it was like just an amazing, elaborate filing system.
Yeah, good. That's a good way to describe it.
They were all kind of put into. They were all in there.
Right. You're written in the book of life. Let me see.
But we're all in like a different file or a different.
Absolutely.
Or we might be in there with other kindred people, and maybe that's why sometimes you say, "I know you."
Right. Almost
or,
a deja vu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that might be that. I think if we were to do a deeper search on that, we may find that we're all in the same file.
Probably.
In the Bible code.
Right.
And there might be something that we haven't understood or allowed ourselves to consider because our thinking is so minuscule compared to God's greatness.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, and I think that so many people, whether they be whatever Christian denomination or even non-Christian denomination they are, a lot of religions come up with these practices and things like that. And I think and customs. And I think a lot of people get used to playing the spiritual hokey pokey.
Yeah, right. It's all cleaned up. Right.
They get caught up. Well, you do this, then this happens. You do this enough times, God responds like this.
There's a song called "The Cadillac Cowboy." He wears his spurs just for show.
Well,
I mean, it's all made up. They're really not, grappling with the seriousness of why God created them. They're just do the hokey pokey.
Well, I always thought it was funny when I go to Mass, and then they'd have on Sundays the sign of peace when that was coming around.
I hate that part.
well,
I go into deep prayer when that part. I don't, because on the street you wouldn't give me the time of day. You know what I mean? So I'm figuring I'm not sure I want to.
I figured your natural flatulence is kind of a barrier to that, but some people do get the farts at the sign of peace, so they get really sweaty palms.
Do they really?
Oh yeah, people get nervous about it.
Yeah. Well, it should be natural. It shouldn't be like, let's all stop Mass and start making
acknowledge one
believe we
another.
like each other.
But it should be like what you do at the beginning of the Mass, not during.
Yeah,
the
that's
Mass,
right. How are you? How you?
Hey,
Very natural,
let's
right?
turn
Yeah.
and say, hey,
yeah,
everybody.
good to see you, John.
Yeah. But I just think that was so funny. Then I'd be going out of Mass, going home, and I'd see Mr. Dant yelling at somebody else out in the parking lot to move his frickin' car because he wanted to get.
Is that right?
Yeah, because he wanted to get
Get out
home
soon.
because the football game was
Okay.
starting and the Bears were coming
enough
home.
of this touchy-feely stuff.
Yeah, we'd gone to the 11 o'clock Mass, and we're out at noon, and Bears are on, and Mr. Dant wanted to see his.
And so much
his
for the
football
hugging,
game.
right?
Yeah. I got Mike Ditka's going to be on TV. You got to go see Ditka play. That was a long time ago.
Well, if you're
When I was a
interested,
kid.
this is the best piece of software, but it has to be used with Windows 98, 95, or 2000. Well, Larry said you probably could get a patch for it. You can find this on the internet. It's very rare. And they only sold so many of these things. And it's a good tutorial. It's called Unlocking the Bible Code, DOKO, DOKO. So you would go on eBay, and they have them. Some of them want a lot of money. Other times people just want to get rid of them.
You may find it on Amazon. They got everything.
Yeah, you'd be able to find this. There's a part 1 and part 2 of the controversy, Secrets of the Bible Code Revealed. There's a part 1 and a part 2. These are rare, but if you get these, all of the stuff that you're talking, I'll leave this with you.
Yeah.
But all of the stuff that you're talking about in this controversy, you get to see Dr. Rip, and he talks about the sequence, and they interview CIA people and mathematicians, and they tell you this is what we found. These are people that highest scrutiny in the journals of mathematical journals and things. The Bible code is in there, and they sign off on it. Yep, because they study it and they do it and they find out what they want to find. And a lot of it, they'll search.
They have to comment on it.
They'll search themselves and they'll go, "Oh, how did that? My birth date, my
How
name?
do they know that?
How do they know that?"
You think you got secrets, but there's no secrets with God. Can you imagine? I was telling somebody the other day.
you got secrets.
Shit, yeah.
So when the kids come up to you, "Come on, Pop's getting ice cream," I go, "Shh, don't say anything." So you think you got secrets?
Well, you think you got secrets, and I was trying to think when you took me off my case. Gosh, I forgot what I was.
That's okay. In between, think about it. The book that you can get relatively inexpensive is his first book called The Bible Code. Michael
Drosnin.
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 And then
Drosnin.
he wrote a book too. The best one is the first one. And then what's it say?
This one he just did for the money, huh?
Yeah, what does it say? The what? Countdown.
The countdown.
And then Saving the World, Bible Code. This was, I found the first one really. But it's good to read all three of them. They're very cheap. You can get them on the internet.
And you can watch a lot of stuff on YouTube.
YouTube too. That's right.
A lot of scholars have gone into this, so it's not a topical thing. There is some substance to it. And I remember now what I was going to talk about.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
I was talking with a Protestant friend of mine about going to confession. And I did something. So, oh, geez, now I got to go to confession. He goes, what is it with you Catholics? And I said, well, it's kind of like going and taking a bath. Go clean your soul. It gets a little dirty. Go take a bath. He says, well, we just deal with that directly with Jesus. We talked to him. I said, yeah. I said, but could you imagine going to confession with Jesus?
I know.
You start talking. He said, yeah, I know. But Jesus, yeah, I know. It'd be like you wouldn't be able to get a word out. Jesus would say, yeah, I know.
Right. So you're not going to be embarrassed.
I tell you,
well, if you know and I know.
I had everybody at the checkout counter just laughing their butts off. Yeah, I know.
Is that where they asked you the question at the checkout counter?
Well, I was talking with them at the checkout.
Okay.
And everyone kind of listens in when you're having a conversation. And I got to that and I said, yeah, could you imagine going to confession with Jesus? Sir, well, Jesus, I want to tell you about, yeah, I know. It would just
Well, one of the first ones publicly that went to confession was one of the thieves on the cross. He didn't give you the dirt. Mm-hmm. I did this, I did that, I did the other thing.
Wasn't there...
it was almost like a general confession, wasn't it?
Wasn't there a woman I don't know if it was the Palestinian one that they called the dog, that she had that conversation with Jesus at the dinner table. The apostles were wanting to kick her out because she was a Palestinian, and they considered the Palestinians, even at that time,
And they didn't
dogs.
want them around. Okay.
They called them the dogs of the
Okay.
world. They were the nigger of the Arab world.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to give the word power, so no one complain about that.
All right.
But, you know, no one's wanted the Palestinians since forever,
Right.
because they've always considered to be the dirty Arabs, and they don't want anything to do with them. Well, the apostles were trying to get this woman from Jesus, and she and Jesus had this like great conversation that went way over the heads of all the apostles. But Jesus had such a dry sense of humor, and he connected with people that way, you know, because they knew what they were talking about. But nobody else at the table had any idea where they were going with it.
Right.
But I think in that time, she basically confessed her
heart.
right. I think in that, is it not really an outward, but she was admitting things. I think, and
right.
I think Jesus was fond of that.
You know, I often wonder, so why didn't Lord, you know, he had masses. He could have had mass conversions and whatever he did. I mean, everybody would have wanted to join. I mean, till the tough parts of suffering came up. But and so I wonder why it was always person to person.
Because that's how the church has been built. It hasn't been done with mass conversions. It's always been me to you, you to your sister,
So
your sister to the cousin, because they learn and they pass it on one by one. And that's how I'm hoping here. And then with the call to Our Lady's call to a life of purity, it's not about what religion you are,
Right.
or something like that. It's how are you responding and how are you dealing with these things, and what is your answer to God's call?
So he wants to know what's really in our hearts.
Because
and
that's
what's
all
real.
that matters.
What's real.
The rest of it's crap.
Okay.
You know, the spiritual hokey pokey.
Right.
That
Right.
goes
That's
on.
right. Who needs a bunch
He
of
says,
people?
"Don't dance for me." He says, "Live for me."
Right. That's
You
a
know,
good point.
Show me how to live. And when you live with purity, it's not about, you know, trying to be,
Right.
24/7. It's about taking care of yourself, taking care of the gifts, admiring your world you live in, taking care of these things, taking care of each other, you know, and regarding me and thanking me
Right.
for these things.
And we don't
thank me for the bad stuff too.
That's right. Because
you
you got
learn
something in
through
mind.
that.
That's right.
You know, and a lot of people know I had a tragic situation. I lost one of my dogs the other week. And
Did you tell them a story on that?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I bored people with that. I
No,
cried.
I like the story. I lost JJ.
Well, it was the only time I cried about that,
Okay.
because I'm really just so thankful and so happy about that dog.
Right.
I'm upset that I didn't get to actually place her with a family.
Right.
But that dog was a dog. And
Very
that dog
loving.
knew
Yeah,
who
she used
was.
to. I miss her schmutzing around
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah, she'd normally be all over.
Remember?
you. Oh, she loved
She
me.
loved me.
I kept thinking this is your dog.
I might have. I don't know. It's just that dogs do.
Well, that dog was perfect for you.
Is that right?
Yeah, she'd have gotten you out and made you exercise, and
Yeah. Well,
You
she
know.
was a beautiful dog.
but she just loved the heck out of you. And
Yeah, I
but
couldn't believe it. Larry called me. Yeah, the kid. So happy that he shot them animals. There's a good shots on that, but
no, that was another part of it. But you know, Jesus, you know, asks us to live a life of purity, and that means, you know, being a good caretaker of yourself, your world, and each other in this. But it's not about always just being on your knees and adoring Him, because you don't get any work done.
so
Yeah.
you talked about this current quote unquote Pope Francis as being. I forgot how you put it. You said he's the one that represents the upstairs. You said he's not only the exemplar, but the way you put it was more in a common language. That he's supposed to represent.
Oh, he's going against the brand of the Catholic Church.
Thank you. He represents the brand.
He's supposed to be the world's top ambassador for the Catholic Church.
Wow.
And he's been anything but that.
Okay.
He's been everything. I mean, he's almost one step away to, hey, nothing to see here, folks. Did I show you the two-headed lobster over here?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
go
no,
see the
it's
sideshow.
tragic. Yeah, extremely. And even more to that extreme in terms of what he's, you know, the mask. But we're going to do a search on him in the Bible Code.
Oh, on Bergoglio or
Yeah.
both names.
Let's do a search and see what the good Lord has written about him.
Oh, I think from what I've been able to see on this, I mean, if nothing else, I would put it in like even with like any other Google search. If you're trying to do a topical thing, because
in human terms,
who is it? Itzhak Rabin.
Yitzhak Rabin
was
he was a prime minister of
Israel
that wanted peace, and Droznin went to him with a letter saying that you're at risk.
Right.
Do you remember the story?
Yeah, he went to Itzhak Rabin and said, I need you to see this, do with it what you want. But it was a message that he found in the Bible code about Rabin and that he'd be assassinated.
Right.
And I think he even told him what month it'd be.
Yes, it really was specific.
It wasn't soon.
Right, but there was a
coming.
particular month, right? Month and year or month and something.
Rabin and them, they apparently didn't do anything about it, and son of a gun.
It happened, yeah. Well, they said that, Jonathan said that he was fatalistic. He was saying, well, what do I do? What don't I do? Or what do I change and when do I change? But the point is he could have hardened his target by perhaps more security or
more intellectual scrutiny and security, and
but he was
being more watchful about things.
He was a warrior. He was one of I don't know if he was a general, but he was a colonel during the
Itzhak Rabin. He was part of the 6-Day War.
That's right.
He was the hero of the 6-Day
War. He was a hero. That's right. And they shot him because he was seeking peace. Now, he was not going to hand over the store to him, but he was willing to negotiate something to try to calm everybody down. But
he was shot by an Arab.
Was he? Amir?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, I believe he was shot by an Arab who didn't want the peace because nobody wants peace.
Right.
There's no money in peace.
No, there isn't. It's common.
There's no news in agreement.
Right.
If everyone agrees, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
Okay? And so that's why news cycles need conflict, and politicians lie. And priests and bishops lie.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of historical documentation on that, and I'm going to bring more of that to the table here. I'm just kind of loading up on that. And I've had personal experience with it and how harmful it's been, not only to me and my relationships, but my family.
Well, can you imagine
friends.
somebody that's been great?
It didn't need to be lied about. This is done by a bishop.
Yeah, and what happens if there's you have some durability to you. You're a fighter. But there are people that aren't. That could be affected to such an extent.
Oh, they kill themselves.
There you go.
Oh, the suicide rate on this kind of stuff is up there.
Because you have a phony empathy. And
well, I had it. I had the thought about it because I'd lost everything. I mean, I thought I'd lost everything. Everyone told me I'd lost everything, and everyone was rubbing in my face that I'd lost everything. And said, "You dumb son of a bitch! You threw it all away for a stupid story about the Blessed Mother."
It's a story of that.
And it's like, what am I? And this is like, and I'm getting this from so many people, except for my mom, my dad, and my wife at the time. But then she kind of started. She had to. The pressure was just so much.
Right.
And I don't, put this wishes on anybody to have these things. People say, "Oh, you're so blessed." I don't think so.
Yeah, right. It's like having this stigmata. It's really not.
It's like no. This is like
bleeding out.
This is like having a leg cramp that you can never get rid of.
Yeah.
And it just consumes you, and you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
And
so where's the victory then? Where's the victory as we feel like we're being dismantled? Where's the victory?
The victory for me, or the victory for all of us? The victory for all of us, I think. And I've said this for the longest time, people are pushing and wanting to get this statue in the National Shrine to the Immaculate Conception.
So that would be a victory.
Well, that'd be a major victory, and that'd be a turning point. But it wouldn't happen until at least one major miracle had happened.
Okay.
Now, that major miracle is going to be coming in the form of the changing of people's hearts.
Okay.
To where they're going to be saying, "We want this."
I hear you,
that's
right.
where the first miracle.
Yeah, because I don't see the bishops really like railing around the thing, huh?
Bishops are not going to do this until the people raise up and demand it.
And then they'll do it.
Because the bishops are wussies. They are not brave.
Weak.
They're very weak.
So that's interesting. So Larry's indicating that something extraordinary has to happen in the hearts of people. And a certain knowledge base, a certain sense of God's love and God's intentions of what he wants. He's saying when the people rise up in love and in demand to obey Our Lady out of love for what she's asking for, what God is asking for.
And they say, this is why I act this way. This is why I live this way. Is because of my commitment to myself and my lady's request to live a life of purity. You know, and purity doesn't have to be boring. Purity is just doing things to the best of your ability.
Right.
You know, and so you say, I did that.
Right.
You know, whether it's baking cookies or sweeping a floor or working a job and managing thousands of people, you know, if you do it with that sense of purity,
It's
you know,
properly
I
done,
truly
yeah.
believe you won't have these assassinations of insurance executives in New York City.
If you
like
do
we
it
had
with
the
pure,
other
that's
day.
right, right.
You know, but he
Somebody's mad,
he
right.
was being a CEO, and there's nothing I think that was totally pure about that. No man deserves to die for that.
Right.
But we need to look at
The institution that wants
there was
people
something
to, right,
that was going on there that brought somebody to that point.
right. Right.
And we've all, hopefully not all of us, but enough of us have had this situation where you get denied on something you pay diligently.
Well, you've
Again,
had had threats on your life.
I've had threats on my life, and I've had insurance claims denied that, you know, cost me 3 years of my life to pay off, you know, to get out of. You know, that's kind of a game-changing situation.
Sure it is, yeah.
Especially when you pay so much for insurance like we do.
Right.
And then they just have these, you know, rules. But that doesn't give anyone license to take somebody else's life. But it's more of a call to, there was a lack of purity on probably several levels that brought that about. But if you can bring purity in and everyone's working towards the best interests of themselves and everyone around them in the spirit of trying to do God's work. You know, so if I do something to try to help you, but I don't hurt anyone over here doing it,
Right.
you know, that's a good thing.
That's
But
purity.
if I go
That's
to
right.
hurt you, if I go to help you,
With somebody else,
the
right.
5 other people over here
And
being
it's
harmed
not
by
right.
it,
It's not pure.
that's
right.
that's messed up.
It's right.
Okay, and if I'm going to sit there and try to justify that, I'm the one that's got the problem. And this is what's going on right now with our NGOs.
I used to be a psychiatric reviewer for Aetna health plans in that area.
You're the problem. You
Well,
started
I
it.
had a lady, she called me one time, and there were policies that would be specific on what they would cover and not cover. And she had her son that was currently having problems. She said, can't you work outside the policy? And I said, I probably can't unless you give me a reason why working outside the policy works. And she said, well, my other son, they worked outside the policy, and he had certain psychiatric and things, and he corrected himself, and now he's this, that, and the other thing. And so and I said, well, give me the dates and the name and what happened. I'll check with the physician. And so I
they're
said,
just looking to try to find something to be covered.
yeah, she wants her son to be cared for in a I think an outpatient or an inpatient, some setting that worked for her before, and they normally wouldn't do that. And she said, well, he started calling me a murderer or something. I said, look, you give me something solid to present to the
You're
physician.
a murderer?
Like I wouldn't approve it.
Oh,
I wouldn't approve what she wanted, but it wasn't mine to. I had to go to a higher level to get
and
approval.
this is at this level. She's already calling you a murderer. She wants
Yeah.
to take you out. Well, you're lucky she didn't have a gun.
Well, I said, look, I'll work with you, but you call me that. I said, but I can't just do anything for anybody. So she gave me the dates and this and that and the other thing, and the son's got a job, you know. So I called the physician. I said, she's giving me substantial information that us working outside will help secure this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the physician said, well, go ahead and do it. They gave him, I don't know, 4 weeks in inpatient, and after that, I mean, I didn't want to. I said, I'll do the best I can, but I can't. I can't work magic. You have to tell me why this worked for you, and you think it's going to work for your son. But doing that kind of thing, you got to go through
Well,
getting the information and talking to the
well,
psychiatrist.
what you did was a sign of impurity. Purity would have been to just say, hey, we got a situation here, we got professionals looked at this, we need to get this kid some help. That's purity, getting that through. Now, the policy, is precluding you to effectively do that.
That's right. So I'm
legally
trying,
within the bounds of
that's
your
right.
administrative duties.
Right.
So there's a problem there, but that presents an impurity situation in the world. And I'm not calling for socialism or socialized
That's
medicine.
right. Yeah, just help.
I'm saying, for people to just do the right frickin' thing.
Right. That's right.
When it's needed.
And apparently it worked. I think we did a follow-up, and the kid did, stabilize. And
You needed to find like a different alphanumeric.
I had
code
to
for
get
billing.
justification why these
Right.
people would allow me to do it. And when I gave them that information, they said, well, then go ahead and do it. A lot of the psychiatrists say, no, we're not going to do it one way or the other. But I happened to get a hold of one that was more,
Yeah, we could put it into this different.
Yeah, we'll
sort
do
of
it like this.
category,
Right, yeah.
but we can
Right.
we can still get eyes and ears on this kid and see what's going on.
Right.
Which
Well,
is really what you need to do.
Yeah. And if the lady got my name and where I lived and I denied her, I could have been on the back pages at least of the social worker that got snuffed out because
you might have had a 45 in your rib cage and
Right.
a hole coming out the other side.
Right.
But people are, when they don't feel like they're being listened to or they're being regarded, and I
Right.
use that word regard an
Right.
awful lot, they will do a lot of,
Damage.
yeah, and,
I
they,
used to-
and they will go off very quickly. Case in point is like if you go to a town meeting or something like that, and you're up against something that the other folks in the town want to do, and you're voicing against it and trying to say, no, 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 but they end up doing it. But if you had your chance to go up and speak your mind, say your piece at the public meeting, chances are 99% that you're going to be okay with the decision. You're not going to agree with it.
At least that.
But you're going to say,
voice,
at least
right.
I had a chance to speak.
Absolutely.
And they heard me. That is so very important in these things. And I think people right now, because of these, dang old cell phones and
They don't know how to
internet
talk.
communications, and
Right.
stuff, people aren't talking.
Anymore.
And a lot of times people don't know if they're actually being heard or felt.
Right.
No,
No, you're right.
And
They get upset if you put them
it's
on
like-
the Ixnay list.
And
And,
several years ago, it's like, so you guys say, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I feel you. Because people, it's important to be felt, because I think a lot of people now, with the disconnect that's been going on in our society, a lot of people aren't getting touch.
Physically.
Emotionally
Physically
or
or
physically,
emotionally.
either.
okay.
They're not connecting with
It's
other people.
isolated them.
That's why a lot of young men don't know how to ask a woman out for a date, except for, hey, do you want to go, crush for a little bit?
Do something,
Yeah, do you want to go
Right.
have sex?
which is kind of like a dead end. But
Just go have a
it's better,
quick hookup.
better
because-
than nothing.
Well, it's their way. It's like, hey, I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. We'll just go hook up, and they'll be,
For one moment, we'll feel like we're in love.
no, we're going to act out a porno that we watched. That's what they're doing, because they're disassociating. They're
No, you're right, Larry.
They're
It's
having, they're having
disassociated with it.
pornographic relationships
Right.
rather than individual relationships.
Right. That don't last very long.
Well,
Right.
nothing lasts more than 3 minutes in a porn,
Right. Right.
So I hear,
Yeah, same thing, right?
But who's that guy that played Chandler Bing on Friends?
I forgot. I would know him if I saw
He
him.
died drug overdose here recently.
Did he?
But,
Drug overdose?
Yeah, he died in his hot tub or something like that. But he was talking. I saw. It was one of the funnier things I'd seen on late night TV. But he was talking about watching porno, and his addiction,
Was that?
was to porno. Every night he'd watch porno. He said, but once he was done, he had to turn it all off because he didn't want any more of that going on around him. Well, he'd completed his business,
Right.
and so
Right.
turns it off right away. He says, hell, I was watching that for like 40 minutes beforehand, and all of a sudden I got to turn it off.
Right.
He says, what's wrong with me? And I thought it was one of the most poignant things ever said on late night TV.
Yeah.
That he asked the question, and the audience roared. But I don't think he was trying to be funny.
No, he was trying to say that after he completed his event, there was still a hole in his heart. There's still a hole.
And he didn't want to have to even think about how
right. Yeah.
how
what
how
led
dirty
me
he
up
just
to this
was.
right this crescendo.
You know,
yeah,
how he just treated himself.
It's-
You know, and treated his body and his regard for
no
himself.
intimacy. Nobody cared about his heart, his soul. Nobody cared about.
Yeah.
You know, well, let's get up and take a walk. Let's have a cup of coffee. You know, I want you just the way you are. Someone who I can talk to.
Well, I want a relationship. I want to have, you know.
That's right.
I want to make love, not have sex.
That's right. Which is rare if you can
Well,
find
it's,
it.
but this is what they want right now, and they want sex without consequences, and that's what a lot of these young women and beta men are fighting for. If you're an alpha man, you know where you're about, but a beta man is, you know, still confused.
Yeah. When I was worked in mental health, I had several clients that were pedophiles, and they initially present themselves like howdy doody. Everything is, you know, funny and chuckles, but the minute you begin to prick what they're there for in your office, they become extremely hostile and anger. You can see and feel the rage that they have. In Fort Wayne, there was a colleague, a social worker, that worked at one of the clinics, and he was working with this happened in Fort Wayne. He was working with somebody in the criminal justice system that monitors felons, the probation officer, and so the social worker and the probation officer teamed up against this one guy, and when he came in to the office, he shot the social worker in the head, and he shot the probation worker in the head, and then he shot himself. This is in Fort Wayne. So
Well, it doesn't matter where you're at. It
You
matters
talk
how you
about
are.
inordinate and sexuality, which is perverted and then focused
Well, there's no value.
on a child. This guy felt in a corner. He offed those two people, and he offed himself
Yeah.
in the clinic. And so I had this guy, and the social worker said to me, goes, you know, let's press this guy. And I said, listen, the last one to press this guy got a bullet in their heads. I said, you have to be, you're the bad guy. I'm the guy that's trying to help this guy through this craziness.
Right.
And I understand it's going to be, the guy's not going to make it. They usually don't. If you violate a child,
Well, you're going to get it in prison.
yeah, and also if you violate a child in their innocence and in their sexuality and their modesty, well, what else is left to violate in terms of sexuality? I mean, this guy is not thinking about what I did. There's no remorse, no contrition.
Well, there never was. There never was any care or concern because it was always about themselves and this void, this hole that they can't fill
Right.
because they're trying to fill it full of the wrong stuff.
Absolutely.
Nothing to build on.
Right. Right.
It's all hollow. And this is what, you know, instant gratification gets. You know, there's no value in it. There's nothing that lasts.
The continuum of inordinate sexuality, which is meaningless, ends up being meaningless.
No.
So, but I mean, these are real issues and things. The social worker and this probation officer are no longer here with us because they confronted somebody that was doing something terrible.
Well, my dad, who was, like he used to say, he was smarter than he looked.
What did he say? He was
He
what?
was smarter than he looked.
Oh, your father, Frank.
Yeah. My dad was wise about a lot of things, you know, but that's just as he was an accountant. He dealt with hundreds and hundreds of families and their individual situations. So he was kind of like a problem solver, and I kind of grew up in that. And I went as an auctioneer. He became a problem solver for people. So we kind of
Had that knack, yeah.
Yeah, it was something had. Well, anyway, he says, you know, never corner a rat. Always give it a way out. Otherwise, it's going to fight. So always if you got a rat cornered in the garage, you know,
Give it a way out.
way
Yeah,
out.
that's right.
You know, show it as his access point out because it'll take it.
Right.
But if not, it's going to fight you,
Right.
and you're going to be in trouble. And it's the same thing happens with people.
They didn't give him an out.
They didn't give him an out, or at least a safe way for him to be taken in,
Right.
And they weren't the people to do that. And that's why a lot of this crazy talk about revamping the police and putting domestic caseworkers out there to deal with these people and bring them in rather than the cops.
Oh, that's great.
Well, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, not when they got like a 9mm in their hand.
Maybe they missed all the stuff in the 60s where people were getting shot or stabbed,
that's
going to the
ridiculous,
door trying to do community service work and stuff like this. But, with the child services type of stuff, a lot of people died because they did it the wrong way.
Right.
They thought they were going to be nice about it and all like that. No.
Oh, yeah.
People are past that point if you're out there to try to collect
More so now than ever before. More so now that people will do things they never would have done in the heat of...
Oh, the impulsiveness right now is
Right.
just crazy. Because people don't have regard for one another. Because ultimately they don't have regard for themselves.
Right.
They don't value themselves. This is why when you don't value yourself and you think, what's the point? I'm not worth anything. I'm a piece of crap. Everyone always tells me I'm a piece of crap, blah, blah, blah. Or they want to play this victim card. They say, I'm a piece of crap. They want everyone to go, no, you're wonderful.
No.
They want to play, this game. Let me poof one out my backside. I feel so bad. I need to fart twice. But this is what these people need is they want to be a victim, and so they get all this attention. One birthday a year isn't enough for them. They need to celebrate.
So it's more of a game, like a victim.
It's like notice me. I'm special. All like this because their sense of ego and all like that isn't developed because they've grown up empty and they haven't done anything to where they feel like this is how I am. When you're a kid, people say, "Well, what do you like to do?" "Oh, I'm a ball player. I play baseball, or I play piano. I like to do puzzles or something like that." Well, you got an engineer on your hands. These types of things. You ask the kid what to do. And when you're an adult, you go out and you meet someone for the first time. What are the three things you ask them or you try to find out?
Well, what do you do? And
what's your name?
yeah,
where are you from? What do you do?
Right.
People can't answer the last one.
Because they don't do
They
too
don't
much.
do anything.
Well, apparently the people
don't know what they do.
in Washington, D.C. were saying that the report is that the offices are empty
Yeah.
and they're working at home.
Federal offices right now.
It's,
This Doge is going to find out a lot of stuff. In the federal offices in Washington, only 6% of the employees are reporting into the buildings right now. And that includes security and maintenance, the janitor. So all the entrances have to be maintained with the full security. Okay.
do they show up, the janitors and
They have to.
Oh, they got it, right, okay.
Somebody's
They
got
can't work at home.
but they don't have
Remote.
they don't have any work to do. They only got to mop the floor like once every 5 months.
Wow.
Because nobody's in there, and it's just crazy what's going on, and they're.
So what's your sense of Trump and his intent? Do you see some light at the end of the tunnel with what they're up against?
Oh, I think that they're up against a lot, and that's an entrenched system, and that's going to be a lot of these. Donald Trump was never a threat to democracy. He was always a threat to bureaucracy. And this is what has people scared. That's what the deep swamp is. And it's this people that, there's two people that are almost impossible to be able to fire. That's a federal worker or a school teacher. It's almost impossible to be able to fire one.
Well, John David Garcia once framed bureaucracy as the welfare state of the middle class.
Correct. Or for the people who, only like to work 12 hours a week.
And they're getting paid good money to...
Oh, gosh, they're getting pensions are building up and all like this. And so the amount of waste that these guys are going to find, and
Astronomical.
a lot of people aren't paying attention to the people that they've hired or brought in, these volunteers. These are some pretty high-profile folks that nobody knows about, that they're bringing in. I mean, you're bringing in one of the guys that was one of the mainstreamers for Citibank, their entire internet IT systems and all like that. The guy, I mean, just
Good.
he's got all the codes. He knows all the doors. You know, they can find out everything. Just so many key people are coming. But that guy, when I found out about him, I don't know his name, but the guy's like a real brainiac when it comes to
That stuff.
cracking stuff. Yeah,
He's got a nose for it.
he wrote probably most of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he knows where the bodies
Yeah,
are
so
buried. and
they're
how
going to
spend
the
money.
author to go help. Let's go find the story.
You follow the money, you follow the
Yeah,
story.
and this
right?
is the kind of people that Musk and Ramaswamy, I think, are pulling out of the.
So the other guy,
intellect.
Zuckerberg, and then there's another one from the guy.
Zuckerberg is with Meta or Facebook.
And how about the other guy that's with Prime? Prime, what do they call it?
Well, Amazon.
Amazon. Is he?
Oh,
in?
Bezos.
I heard he wants.
Well, Bezos is trying to suck up to Trump now. He wants to come and suck up to Trump and Musk
Okay.
because he knows that hey,
I could benefit from this.
and the guy owns the Washington Post,
Oh.
so there's some questions to be asked and answered.
Why does he want to do it?
Well, the guy's trying to survive, and right now I think he realizes, Bezos does, as a lot of people do, that there's a lot of momentum for common sense thinking, and this is where we need to be getting to, and this is where,
Well, you're painting a picture of some hope in some.
this is where the purity comes in. Purity is basically being common sense
doing that
and
thing,
doing
yeah.
a great job.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
You
I keep on thinking
and
purity
everyone
is like
says,
you don't
everyone
do
says
anything.
MAGA like it's a dirty word.
Right, you don't do anything wrong,
But,
especially in the.
And people say, well, for MAGA, well, where do you want to go back to? I said, well, I don't know. I said maybe the years of Camelot were probably pretty good. The early '60s.
Yeah.
Hope.
There was hope. Yeah.
It was hope.
New flesh, new brains.
People came out of a really major war. I mean, I was born
60.
Yeah, I was born '60. I was born 15 years after the end of World War. So that was pretty damn close to being.
Sure, you were one of them.
in that
Right.
window.
No, you are. You're the last of the baby boomers. Like my brother
But
Joey.
I have nothing of World War II has affected me that I can feel or I can, point.
Yeah, but you're knowledgeable about it. I mean,
I'm knowledgeable about it, and I know the effects. But as far as me and my personal life,
Right, nothing, right, yeah.
it's like, I felt none of the pain or what happened in World War II.
Correct.
Like what my mom and
They
other
felt
folks
it, right.
lived through.
Right.
She served in.
Yep.
And then they had the follow-up pain of not only Korea, but then Vietnam.
Absolutely, right. Yeah.
Which were pretty painful, but not to the level that
Of
World War II was.
No. World War II was a demolition.
That was taking up like 40% of the GDP.
Did it that much?
Yeah. We consume that much. And right now we put in probably less than 3% of our GDP to our military, which is really bad. Even Carter put in like 6 to 8%. Our military.
Do you see our Lord converging on wanting change in the world at this point, politically, spiritually, certainly people living their lives?
I feel it, but I don't think a lot of people agree with me, and because a lot of people think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Because well, they say, well, what
A
are
lot
these?
of people, most of the people wouldn't be able to go through what you went through.
Well, they say,
Or they wouldn't want it.
They said, well, you're a Catholic. I said, well, I didn't say as a good Catholic. I said, never have been. I said, I don't profess to being a good Catholic. I mean, what is a good enough Catholic? For Catholics. It's
So,
like,
one of the
when
reasons
do you stop beating the crap out of yourself?
You asked the good Lord, why me? You know what I mean? You could choose anybody, and I'm really not the guy for the job. And I think,
said no.
And they responded that you get. What do they mean by you get the jokes? Does that mean that you understand more clearly some of the underlying things that are going on, or
Well,
how
in some of their responses or confirmations
okay.
that you get, because always need to ask for confirmations to prayer and things like that. If something has happened, ask for a confirmation. Was this of your work, or is this just
Absolutely, sure.
or is this just life?
I'm trying to discern what this deal
Yeah.
is, right?
And but help me with that, because you're trying to discern. And if you ask for confirmations and a sign, and ask for something specific, like one time I asked for 3 doves.
Yes. One time you asked for a major sign and you got the cross.
Well, I got the big cross.
It's like, oh God, I shouldn't have asked for that.
And I'm saying, no, that's no sign.
Right.
People are stopping.
Then he has a state trooper
people
going,
are stopping
you
on the
do that?
highway.
He goes, no, I didn't do that. I don't know who did that. In fact, I didn't even ask for anything like that. Well, I mean, there's a certain humor. But
I'd have been fine with a butterfly at that moment.
Oh, Lord.
But, no, I got the big cross, but it was very noticeable, and I was not alone. But
Well, stay tuned, because promised to search on Mr. Larry Young.
the Bible code. We're going to get the Bible
and
code
we're also
results.
going to do a search on our beloved Bergoglio to see where he's at in this matrix and stuff.
I think we ought to pull some names and just check a bunch of stuff out.
Okay.
Just see what's there.
Yeah, and I'll get a printout of this stuff, and each name is signified by certain icons and things.
And if you come back with Taylor Swift, I'm going to smack you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is she a good singer still, or what's Taylor Swift?
Who's Taylor Swift?
I'm still listening to the Eagles.
Oh. Taylor Swift is probably going to be the first double billionaire female in the entertainment industry.
No kidding. Is she pure at heart?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I don't think
She
so.
must be making some good money then.
Well, she's working her tail off. And great for her machine, her people. They all had great years. So, but do I know any of her songs? Couldn't tell you any of them.
You don't know any of her songs, but she's a mega. The other one that not Dion, what's her name?
Celine Dion?
Yeah.
She hasn't done anything for years.
I understand that, but when I heard her voice, I understood why she got top billing in Las Vegas. I mean, this lady's not anymore, but a phenomenal powerhouse. I mean, my God, where does this voice come from?
I mean,
like 16 more vocal cords than what you need or something. Thin little lady, and I'm thinking, powerhouse. But and I picked up a little bit on her. God love her, but it's there's a level of addiction that they have with something of that beautiful. Instead of acknowledging, Celine, this is a gift from God. They wouldn't even give the time of day. You don't even hear anything. And even when she's sick, she was sick as a dog. It was still, she wanted to crawl to get on that stage to be able to perform. And I'm thinking,
her ego strike, yeah. She's probably looking for, because that's probably her drug of choice at this point.
it is, yeah.
And that's
okay, right?
That's okay, you can go ahead and work yourself to death. Not pure.
No. You did. She did work herself to death, because I asked myself, how could this lady get so sick and didn't have a voice? And a lot of it was neurological. And I finally said, with that kind of singing, and it was powerful, and it was specific and exact and magnificent. But she's resonating the brain up there as this thing is coming.
Oh, she's working her vocal instrument, to.
And I think it affected neurologically.
Well, I think it. I don't know about that, but I think there's probably something that goes with that sort of mentality in the artists or entertainers' brain.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a difference between being an artist and being an entertainer.
Right.
An entertainer has an incredible amount of pressure on him, whereas an artist just has to have the room to create.
Correct.
And an entertainer is always being judged.
Got to bob and weave a little bit more, with it, and creative.
Yeah, there's no room for errors, and mistakes are noticed right off the bat, and so they carry like this different expectation for themselves, which is a good thing.
Sure.
In most situations, unless it gets taken to an unhealthy point.
Well, you're not
And-
presumptuous, right?
Well, for her, I think this is a woman who probably needed a real serious hobby that she could invest
Divert,
herself
that's
into.
right, absolutely right.
Besides
Yeah.
the singing,
Right.
and I think a lot of people do need to have something that is a diversionary, hobby, a distraction.
So they don't get too caught
You don't
up into
identify yourself as just one thing.
singer, right?
And then you're
Magnificent
feeling everything's
singer,
being
right?
judged, and I
and
can't let
everybody's
go.
applauding you like, God just
Guy, you're a left-handed pitcher.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
the best in the block.
we got a few of them.
We were talking
The other
about
day.
we were talking about left-handed pitchers and why they're special. But well, they think they are. But anyway, so the Bible code, we're going to come back with some good
Let's. I'll do the searches.
pieces
and,
on that, and feel free to check that out. You'll find a lot of stuff out there on YouTube. I did. I just think the more you look at it, and some of the folks out there are going to cover it are going to be a little more hokey, but there are some people out there who have actually done some more research on it and read the books like Alex has, and they got some good presentations out there. So check it out.
This Secrets of the Bible Code Revealed, Part 1 and Part 2, they're rare, but you can get them in DVD. And a lot of the controversy you get to see, very well done. So if you're interested in the Bible Code, you can get these things relatively inexpensive on the internet.
Yeah, if you got any ideas for what to search for, different topics or whatever that might. Not just to be personal, but it was a general.
Don't do it just for idle curiosity. If you're going to do the search.
No, but we might for somebody.
Huh?
We might be able to search for somebody.
We could if they want. Yeah, but not for idle curiosity. Do it because you want something of substance in terms of what this might reveal to you, as far as what your walk with our good Lord, what you want to do.
So don't play with God's toys.
I wouldn't. No, but he'll reveal things. Well, just like the gasoline story. There's no gas in the gas tank. There's gas in a gas tank.
Oh, the free gas Wednesdays. Yeah.
I mean, he told you the story, I think, earlier. But I mean, it's God reveals that He's with us, in spite of being in a corner and depressed and all the rest of it. But we do experience those things. But yeah, we'll do searches for you if you have something in particular. But we're not experts in this thing. But
we're going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we're looking at it, though, too. That we're not saying that anything's out here to go out and take to the bank or anything on, or define your life by it. But
yeah, like if you want to know what the lottery numbers are.
But if it is real, if it is real and this is going on, I think God wants us to
get it out there.
Right.
It shows His achievement, His glory. Glory is achievement.
Yeah.
What has God achieved in our lives and through all kinds of things. The fact of the matter is we couldn't take our next breath if He didn't hold it together. So
yeah, well, I think it's cool. So we'll get into more of that. So I'm already having fun with it.
Okay.
So good. All right. Well, we'll be back, and in the meantime, I love you. And
I love you too, Larry.
You love me. River loves me.
I'm not going to squeeze you. I'm not going to hug you.
All right.
But I'll wave to you. Yeah, he doesn't.
See you later.